So I just finished watching the 4th episode of Star Wars Andor, and I gotta say, I have some thoughts on it. So very much seems like they're taking, I'm gonna say, the Clone Wars approach, where there'll be multiple episode arcs. So this is, I believe, gonna be another 3-episode arc. So the big climax of the plot that they're setting up in this episode is going to end in, well, not next week, but the week after that. Essentially the next 3 episodes are telling a solid arc, is what I'm getting the impression of. We're going to see Cassian maybe get more used to the idea of fighting the Empire. We're going to see more political story going on, since Mon Monthma has finally been introduced into the show. I also suspect we're going to see a lot more of Imperial infighting, since the ISB is now in, and it looks like they're going to kind of take on the role that the Corporals had in the first 3 episodes, which I think is going to be very interesting. And we're actually already seeing some of the same tensions where, like, the higher ups, they're following things bureaucratically, we gotta work on verified information. Meanwhile, the one ISB who probably, if they let her, do what she's requesting, she will probably snap the rebellion now because she's following her gut instinct. But that's not how the Empire operates. The Empire operates basically by, you do as you're told and that's it. Is that verified? Nope. Well, you verify it before we do anything else. That's very much the mentality that the ISB and thus the Empire seems to be taking. And then, I forget his name, but the main corporal, antagonist from last episode, I have a feeling in the next 2 episodes we're going to see him and this ISB lieutenant start working together to fight the rebellion, and maybe that's what helps push the ISB to actually take the rebellion on. But another very interesting thing I picked up is actually in the main story following Cassian. The Aldhani and Gilroy, which happens to also be the name of the episode, if I pronounced it right, of course. But I'm getting some very Scottish vibes from the planet. Highlands, lowlands. Highlands, you got sheep farming, and the population has been displaced to the lowlands, where all the industry and commerce is. Man, why does that remind me very much like Scotland? I mean, literally, what happened is, well, the rich saw benefit in the Highlands in Scotland, so they basically not necessarily replace them, but push them out so they can do even more sheep farming, large scale, not just small isolated herding. Doesn't seem like the Empire's quite doing that, but sending them into the more populated lowlands where there's more work, more industry, and in many cases sent them off to the colonies. I have a feeling this parallel, I'm not going to say it's not even parallel, the similarity, because it's not identical. But I have a feeling this was intentional by the writers, using similar industries and terminology. And there is so much similarities, and it makes sense. The Empire has always been portrayed with speaking with British accents. In fact, when the ISB scenes, one of the ISB, I don't know if he's the director, but he's a higher up, he literally says instead of lieutenant, lieutenant. That's very British. And I have a feeling that's all intentional to draw those parallels between the Empire and British imperialism / colonialism. Very much intentional, I think. But yeah, that's just a little side trend there. But I also really do enjoy getting back to the political suicide. Seeing Mon Monthma, probably more. We've seen of I forget the actor's name, but more of her in all of Rogue One and even her deleted scenes combined. But very much show that she's, a little bit paranoid, her driver, everybody, practically 90% of the people she's interacted with, well, they're brand new people, new drivers, new guards, new bank tellers even. So it's that paranoid, because she's, one of these has to be a spy, right? To catch me doing something that the Empire can actually throw the book at her for. I have a feeling that's what's going through her head. And of course we also meet her husband, who's very much not her. And that may sound weird to phrase it that way, because obviously her husband is her, but very much seems like he's the kind, he enjoys his status, he enjoys rubbing shoulders with the rich and powerful of the Empire. He doesn't really care about the political aspects of it, he just likes being in the environment and having a good time. I mean, literally to the point where he's having a dinner party inviting top advisors to the Emperor himself, and Mon Monthma is obviously not comfortable with that. I bet she's thinking in her head, what can I do to get out of this? But, like, very much interesting to see. And also, I hope we get some mention of Bail Garner in this, like, how she'd rather be at a dinner party with him or something like that, you know, just to kind of show that, you know, there are elites that she'd rather be hanging out with, because at least she knows that they are aligned to a certain degree. How much is still a question at this time, but, you know, she knows that if she'll have a better time at such an event and won't feel bored. But I don't really think it's bored. She'd say it's boring, but I think it's more of she doesn't want to be around the people who, if she makes a slip of the tongue, can get her in trouble. That's, I think, what's going on. But it's a very interesting thing. And also the Lucen, who recruited Andor, Cassian, you know, he's obviously works as a middleman between Mon Monthma and a bunch of rebel cells, helping supply funding and all that to them, which is very interesting. But I do kind of like that. And he also, you know, puts on a disguise. Seems like he used his antiques as a cover. But that does kind of make sense. But this is a very interesting episode because it's all set up, which makes sense in what looks to be a 3-part story. Episode 1, oh, actually in this case it's episode 4. But this one's going to set it up. We're going to see, I'm guessing, in the next episodes, plots as develop, tensions develop, maybe distrust and trust gained and lost. And then I have a feeling the last episode we're going to get the final climax of this arc. It's going to be, I'm going to guess, the ISB lieutenant and the corporal from who was the main antagonist of the last 3 episodes are going to swoop in during Cassian and the rebels that he's been inserted with, raid on an Imperial base to steal basically the entire payroll for a sector. I mean, that's all going to come together in the 3rd episode. But I gotta say, stealing a payroll is a genius move, because think of this. Low-paid soldiers are not motivated. Sure, they may be in there for ideological reasons, but let's be real. You don't pay soldiers, they don't do their job. I mean, the only people who do things not for money are those who are truly invested ideologically in the cause. Which I have a feeling we're going to see Cassian develop, because at this point he's working for money, but eventually we know he's all in on the rebels. And I have a feeling we're going to see that develop. And there's so much more I could talk about this, but that move of stealing the payroll is brilliant, because, I mean, those Imperials, they'll be like, probably some of them have families they need to support, so like, if they don't have money, they're going to be less likely to fight for the Empire, and that's going to cause discontent in the ranks, which is a brilliant move when you're fighting asymmetrically. Sometimes striking at the base, sure, that may cause some damage, but what if you can cause more psychological and long-term damage to the Empire? That's a much better strategy, and that seems to be essentially the story that they decide to go with for the rebels. Now, whether it succeed or not is, well, it remains to be seen. And this episode also is probably the first one when you can say there are true Easter eggs. Because in the other episodes, they're all Easter eggs. They're all, you know, snippets and all that referencing other Star Wars. But what those are more are, I will call them world-building Easter eggs. They're the kind that serves the story. In one of the reference books for Rogue One, mentioned Andor's home world was Fest. Well, it turns out Fest was just a cover name. And there's a few other things. All that stuff is world-building Easter eggs. This has world-building Easter eggs like the rebel cells that I was casting been inserted with. One that mentions Saw Gerrera, and how one rebel was talking to another rebel and said, hey, if you were with the Parsons on Saw Gerrera and you fell asleep on your post, yeah, you'd be dead. So just kind of to show that that's a world-building Easter egg. But you go into Lucen's antique shop, and all those in the background, let's be real, except for one that helps us a little bit of the story, all the others that they didn't mention directly, yeah, that's not a world-building Easter egg yet, because it's not been incorporated into the story. It's just there to serve as set dressing, to help expand the world, but not necessarily the story or the world-building of the story. And also another neat little thing too is, Lucen gives Cassian a down payment, which is essentially a crystal. I saw it first as a kyber crystal, but it's not that. It's another type of crystal. So I think it's 2 crystals put together, and one that might have been kyber. I should have rewatched that scene to get the terminology right. But he essentially gives this is your down payment. I want it back, but when you give it back, I'll give you your full payment. So it sounds like more collateral, but also says like, if something happens and I can't pay you, you do have this as a backup. that seems like what they were doing with that, which I think is a very unique way of, showing that Cassian's not fully in this fight yet for personal reasons, but perhaps at the end, Lucien won't be able to pay Cassian, but Cassian will still give that crystal back as a sign of he's in it for the fight. He's in there to defeat the Empire. He's not there for the money anymore. I have a feeling that's what they were setting up with that scene. Sure, mentioning the content with that, and how that crystal was created to celebrate a victory against the Rakatan invasion. That was a great Easter egg, though, but also serves as world building. Used to explain why this artifact is so important to Cassian, so that way that can put in his mind that, well, I can sell this for a lot of money, or I can give it back if I get a full payment. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I have a feeling that's been set up. Sure, a little bit of world building Easter egg though, but the main part of that, the crystal, is to show that at the end that Cassian is connected to the rebellion, and that's my prediction, that he is going to give it back despite not getting his payment. That's what I think is going to happen, but we have to wait to see. There's so many other things I wish I could discuss, such as how one of the younger rebels, it's clear that he's model making because he made a physical model so they can plan out their attack on the Imperial garrison. Where the payroll is. Just neat to think how he's very careful with it. Also makes me worry that he's going to be the one that dies first. So there is that. Also, I do wonder if what other plot points from the first 3 episodes are eventually going to be weaved in? Is Cassian going to discover his sister? And one thing I was wondering, what if she somehow got herself involved in the Empire? That would be very interesting to see, and that would make some good character development for Cassian. It's just a start, and this would be, I think, a great place to throw that in. But I'm also wondering, is Cassian, seeing Adari being reminded of his homeworld of Canary at all? People displaced because of the Empire coming in. I do wonder, Empire, Republic, it's up to this, they're all the same. Which is something that Lucien does touch on in appealing to Cassian to get him to agree to this. So, very interesting, all the stuff they set up, and I can't wait to see how it pays out. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? I'd love to hear from you. So feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And be sure to like, share, upvote, subscribe, follow, all the normal stuff. Check out any links down below. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.